Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is exactly 8:39 a.m. and we've had response from a couple of listeners, and one of them is saying regarding our first interview with political analyst Angelo Fick. Of course, the question asked is who are the two ministers implicated in the Eskom corruption investigation? We also know that the Daily Maverick are, at this point in time, not prepared to name and shame anybody because I think there are legal implications to that. But one of the listeners has called in to say, my calculated guess is that it could be the Minister of Police and the Minister of Energy. Jazakallah. This listener is from Ladysmith. I'm not going to take his name to protect his safety is all I can say. I must be honest, dear listener, those two names were definitely not on my mind, but be that as it may, okay, we hear what you're saying. Let's move on then with our interviews for the day right here on Salam Media. And next, another contentious issue this time around. A pro-Israeli group has objected to display saying it's made Jewish patients feel vulnerable, harassed, and victimized due to the artwork being displayed at a London hospital by school children in the Gaza. To talk to us about this ludicrous situation, but perhaps someone else would argue it is not ludicrous at all, because had the situations been reversed, we too would have asked or reacted in a similar fashion. Member of PSA, Hassen Lorgat, always a pleasure to have you on my show. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for having me.
Okay, Sam, I kind of felt a twinge in my heart when I read the story, a story of the display of artwork by Palestinian children at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. Sadly, it has been removed after a complaint by a pro-Israel organization, which they claim makes Jewish patients feel vulnerable, harassed, and victimized. Welcome to the program. Your thoughts on that matter?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think we need to give our listeners and viewers some context in that, as you point out, these were artworks by young people from Beit Lahia Girls' School and Jabalia Prep Boys A School in Gaza. And these are the United Nations Refugee Agency supported initiatives. And it looks like this charity has for a while taken an interest in the work of the refugee agency and has tried to support the children in need. What they did here was they produced artworks to kind of create support for their work, asking the Palestinian kids to do these artworks, which they can display in London and places like that, which helps get much needed resources for the refugee agency, for Gazans and others who've been living under a blockade for many, many years, the world's biggest prison, open-air prison. This exhibition of these artworks on plates has been entitled Crossing Borders, a Festival of Plates, right? And then it has been going on, but what happens is that we need to name them, the UK Lawyers for Israel. Said they received some complaints that some of the patients and people there were feeling vulnerable and victimized when they look at the artwork by these children from the Gaza. Now imagine, I did a post and I started saying, I share in my solidarity work the diary of Anne Frank. I read about Primo Levi. We do all stuff about the suffering of people in the Holocaust. What is happening now should not be happening at the hands of those who have suffered. And the compassion that we have must extend to beyond our tribe, must extend beyond our family, must extend to those who need it. These exhibits were at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, And they were, after the complaint, they were removed, right? Because what happened? Let's be clear. The lawyers claimed that this was like a form of a hate speech. And in fact, interestingly, the article that you referred to points out that the first kind of message when they succeeded to remove the artworks was one of delight. It read from this UK lawyers for Israel. We are delighted to report that Chelsea and Westminster Hospital has removed the display of the artwork designed by children from Gaza. Then they sanitized the message by writing Chelsea and Westminster Hospital has removed the display of artwork incorporating Palestinian political propaganda. So it looks like these guys among themselves have got their own story wrong because they wanted to, firstly, they had to say that they were excited that they removed images of the suffering of Palestinians. Then they realized, oh no, well, it sounds too bad. But then they also removed the idea that this was art by children. Because if you look at their fuller report, and I don't know whether you really want to try and come in there, but if you look at their full complaint, they basically rely on the Equality Act of 2010, which the hospital is bound by, to protect users and patients from discrimination, right? And then they also that these artwork seem to have been done by one professional and couldn't be done by the children. And then they also say stuff like, it seems incredible that Chelsea and Western Hospital could choose to link up with schools from the Gaza, where anti-Israel propaganda is rife. The clear point, before I stop my long intervention, the clear point here is to stop the humanization of Palestinians. Palestinians must not be regarded as humans, and they must not be regarded as worthy of sympathy, worthy of solidarity, worthy of support from others, because the word Palestinian must mean terrorist. And here, what is happening through the artwork, it shows another side of Palestine. It shows the side of Palestine that resists through art, through creative work. The last year or so, a movie made it in the short list, win an Oscar, The Present, about the checkpoints where the person is trying to get a fridge into the Gaza. Then there was also a number of, there's, I think, Farha, which I have not seen, on Netflix, which they've been complaining about. All these tell the story about Palestinians that are creative beings. My friend, our friend Susan Abulawa, has written Mornings and Janine and a number of other books. She's been here. Palestinians have other forms of knowledge which they use as a tool of resistance and to enjoy themselves, to express themselves, you know. But the attempt here is a very crude form of erasure, trying to erase out these people as being fuller beings, you know. Let me stop where you may have a question.
Okay. What you're saying is so interesting, and you're so correct in saying what you have been saying up to now. And obviously, I concur with you 101%. And what comes to mind as you speak is I realize we being victims of apartheid ourselves, it kind of suggests that this is way worse than what we were exposed to back in the day. And it just, it saddens me, it breaks my heart to hear these type of stories. What I also want to comment on is when you look at a piece of artwork, art is each different individual's interpretation of that piece of art. So how you interpret it is different to how I interpret it. So how can these lawyers make a statement suggesting what they have suggested, that they feel vulnerable, they feel harassed, and they feel victimized? What are they seeing that you and I don't see? Is it their conscience? Is it their guilty conscience that is eating away at them? Your thoughts?
I think what you're raising is very, very true, because if you told the story without saying Gaza, right, and just put it out there, suffering, people being starved, they can't travel, automatically Hollywood has primed us to have great sympathy for those who suffered in the Holocaust and that. This is clearly not the same. But the point is our compassion extends beyond one particular case of suffering. And I like to say, and I've been using it a lot because I've been writing something about our values. The Latin form of the word compassion, compassion, is to suffer with others. It's a kind of co-suffering. So the idea of co-suffering is deep in all faiths. In fact, Karen Armstrong talks about the lesson of all the major faiths in the world is about compassion. All the other stuff that we talk about, is divisive and is extra. But the truth is compassion, suffering with, learning the lessons of others, being there for others, being a witness, a sahaba for there, and making sure that this voices that they can't speak can be heard. In fact, the complaint that these guys use, they say one of the plates reads, fishing net is one of the oldest, so they're complaining about the artwork, which reads, fishing with nets is one of the oldest industries in Palestine. The shoreline stretches for 224 kilometers from Rafah in the south to Saul Nakura in the north. Then they say Ras al Nakura is the Arabic name for Rosh Nakira, an international border between Israel and Lebanon in the north. Rafah is a border town of Egypt in the south of Gaza. Thus, the existence of Israel is totally denied, and Palestine, in inverted commas, is regarded as covering the entirety of Israel. So this is what it is. What do you found now? You find the use of law to deny other people the rights, whereas law could be used as a powerful weapon to affirm rights. Yeah, they are using the Equality Act, and be rest assured, the Equality Act that we have in our country will be used against us for the, who are fighting for liberation. Anything you say can be judged against that. It has already been used, and they've had a big success now with the hospital. But here's the issue. We must get beyond crime. Let me give you an example of what happened under apartheid. When the apartheid police would take the authorities, SBs, would move people from a school teaching in some place in Harold Cressy or somewhere, the youth movement school, and they moved them to some Platalanda Dorpi somewhere, in Border or something. What happened there? That community became politicized. So what we need to do out of this anger that we feel is to make sure that those who have done it are held accountable for it, because while there's a responsibility on the state, there's a responsibility on those who've allowed this to happen, and we need to make sure there's justice. But there's a simpler thing we can do. The simpler thing is we need to invite these artworks to ask them to make more. Host them in our hospitals, host them in our schools.
Absolutely.
Make sure.
Well, Hassen, you've read my mind. You've read my mind.
Out of this defeat, have enough art exhibitions where all the people of South Africa can contribute to giving donations and educational programs. Because clearly art is knowledge. When people are watching things and we see people in a fuller being, away from all this hate talk, that it's Hamas controlled, Hamas wants to obliterate Israel. They put all those kind of things in there. And they get away from the fact that people are being killed as you and I sit here. Their homes are being burned, right? That there's a guy, Adia Dwight. He's an English speaker as well from there. And he has actually shared on Facebook the last night. He's saying preliminary toll of the material losses in Hawara in Nablus tonight. And you see cars are burning 100 cars. 35 homes were completely burned, partially burning 40 homes. A large number of injuries due to fire and attacks on them. So the truth is that...
Okay. Hassen, I need to come in here. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but you read my mind when you suggested that we should be hosting that, the artwork, the children's artwork, and get them to commission more for us here in South Africa, and we can start selling the pieces and creating, raise much needed funds for the Palestinian people. I'm going to end off by saying something, and then you can respond to it, but short and sharp, because we do have our next guest online. The whole Zionist agenda is to muffle and annihilate Palestinian voices and Palestinian lives. And they've once again displayed it by muffling the stories of the children at this hospital in the UK. That is the Zionist agenda. But let us here in South Africa keep those voices and those images alive. That story needs to be told continuously and never ever forgotten. Your thoughts?
You a school teacher, that so you know when you ask the kids to rub out something, erasure is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're trying to erase. There were
Absolutely.
people there with a history, and that they're continuing that history of creativity. The story must be told, but we must get beyond simply sending stuff on social media. We must meet as mothers, as brothers and sisters, sit down to see concretely what we can do. If we can break that forwarding a message with a real meeting, would be brilliant. And thank you for doing what you do.
It's an absolute pleasure. Hassan, we can't do it without people like yourselves. We engage you and we bring those very, very important messages to the rest of the public. So thank you for raising that flag as high as you possibly can. Always a pleasure talking with you. Till the next time, as always, you are in our du'as. Keep us in yours. And assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam.
8:56 exactly. Our next guest is standing by, and that, of course, is Professor Anthony van Nieuwkerk. Let's get talking to him in a minute or two, and we're going to be looking at South Africa's policy on trade with the rest of the continent amid a visit from the Ugandan president to our country. It started yesterday.